You're listening to the Cookbook Love podcast with Maggie Green, episode number 410.
Welcome to the Cookbook Love podcast, a podcast that celebrates cookbook readers, buyers, collectors, writers, and clubs. And now your host, cookbook author, culinary dietitian, and cookbook writing coach, Maggie Green.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Cookbook Love podcast. How's everybody doing today? Hope you are all having a wonderful summer. We are enjoying our Kentucky summer here. Have had I think I already talked about that. At the end of June, we had a family wedding. 4th of July, we spent with our daughter. And recently, I celebrated a birthday. So we've had a really good month so far and taken our kids on a little vacation at the end of the month. So it's been a really nice time of year. Looking forward to spending more time with everybody coming up. And I hope that you are having the opportunity to somehow do the same. Summer always allows us to slow down a little bit, cook differently, spend a little bit more time outdoors. And I hope that that is the same for you. Today on the show, I'm excited to have an interview with Gus Constantellis. Gus is a Brooklyn-based stand-up comedian and first-generation Greek American. We are here today to discuss his debut cookbook, My Mom's Greek Recipes. This book grew from a viral social media presence featuring his late mother and evolved into a grief processing project combining her authentic Greek home cooking with his humor and vulnerability. Gus wrote the first draft of this cookbook without a publishing contract, and thinking he was going to self-publish, ended up securing a traditional publisher after posting about the completed draft for his book. And he credits the entire process, writing, recipe testing, and photo shoot, as integral to navigating his mother's loss. Today on the show, we talk all about Gus. We talk about his mother. We talk about his writing process. We talk about grief and humor and vulnerability, Greek home cooking, as well as the way that our society doesn't always like to talk about death, which is a universal experience that we all face. We talk a little bit about immigrant authenticity and also, as usual, cookbooks that influences Gus's cooking experience. So I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. Gus is a true comedian at heart, but I love the way he talks about his mom and can't wait for you to hear him share more about her as well. So without further delay, let's dive into this interview with Gus Constantellis. Hi, Gus. Welcome to the Cookbook Love podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, I'm excited you're here. We got a lot to talk about, but before we dive into talking about your book and some other topics, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
I am Gus Constantellis. I'm a stand-up comedian turned cookbook author through this weird path that I took. My parents are immigrants in America. They came here in 1984. And I've been doing stand-up for about 10 to 12 years now. And I was writing for kids TV for a long time. But I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, and that's where I was born and raised. So I'm a true city boy at heart.
Yeah, I don't think I've had a stand-up comedian on the show before.
That's so funny.
Yes. So I'm very excited to help people take the leap from what in the world is a stand-up comedian doing on Cookbook Love podcast, talking about food and cooking.
I'm still trying to figure that out, honestly.
Yes. So there is a journey to why we're here today, to talk about your book also. But so why don't we start kind of at a little higher level about what brought you to this point for being here talking about cookbooks?
So I do stand up. I do a lot of stand up about my family. I do a lot of stand up about my Greek parents, specifically my mom. And over the pandemic, I was doing like an impression of her online that went viral. And then eventually I started putting my actual mom in videos, which was really fun because she didn't speak any English. I had to subtitle her, but like a huge community of people absolutely fell in love with her and was like, I love this persona. I love who this represents in the community, but also like this reminds me of other people in my life. And then suddenly, about 3 years ago, yeah, almost 3 years ago now, she passed away. We had like a ton of content together. We were doing a lot of fun stuff together. And cooking was always like integral to how she presented herself and how she was, she was always in the kitchen. And I was learning her recipes while she was still alive. And then I decided I wanted to write a cookbook in order to like honor her life after she passed. And
Yeah.
that's what this is. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So she actually was known online before you actually wrote the book. What was it like to go through, first of all, sharing content with her as a person online?
It was so fun because I only thought I was going to do it like one time for like a birthday party video that I shot. And I just wanted people to like see who she really was because I had been doing the impression on TikTok for so long. And everybody just loved her so much. And it was so fun. And then obviously I kept filming her. At first she hated it. She thought I was making fun of her. She thought I was like ridiculing her. But then when all of her friends from church started like following me and following her videos, they were like, oh my God, you're so funny. We love what you're doing. This is great. So she grew to really like it. And so, especially in Greece, where she was getting recognized everywhere she went. Like we were in the ocean and there was Australians swimming and they were like, oh my God, it's the mom. They were like on the side of a mountain one time in the middle of nowhere. And someone was like, I heard your voice from across the road and like went up to her and took a picture. I think she really enjoyed it at the end because she didn't speak any English. So she wasn't always social and communicating when she was in America. So she was a very social person. So this gave her an opportunity to just like smoke a cigarette outside, get recognized by a few fun fans, and then just chit chat with them. So I think she really appreciated it.
Yeah. Now there are,
And yeah,
yeah. So what about your mom though, that you would like people to know that didn't have a chance to get to meet her on social media?
Um, she was exactly the way I portray her in those videos. Like there is some light editing, but it really is like, oh, she was just a firecracker all the time. And that was just her energy. So I would say like go watch one of the videos and you will understand what I had to put up with all my childhood, but also like why I think people really fell in love with her.
Yeah. And this book, though, brings in the topic of grief
Yeah.
and the grief and the combination with humor because your mother passed away while you were doing this with her.
No, so it was something I had planned on doing it with her and I talked about it. I learned some of her recipes before, but it was something I really started after she passed. Like
Okay.
literally 4 days after she passed, I made meatballs and I just started writing some recipes down just to have them and compile them and then it turned into what this book is.
I see. So she
Yeah.
actually was never how did she get known then by people that saw her in the ocean?
Oh, you mean this was like this, when I was doing all the videos and stuff.
Okay.
I was posting videos of her like, while she was alive. Yeah, yeah.
And that wasn't from a food perspective though.
No, it wasn't. I mean,
Yes.
food was part of it, and like
Yes.
she was
Yes, I
cooking in
got
those
you.
videos,
Right.
but it wasn't like she was like teaching recipes. Yeah,
Yes, yes. The food part came after she passed away. But people
yeah,
still did get to know her online because I'm sure the people that knew her online that when they found out she had passed away, there's a grieving process for them also.
yeah. I mean, I still get messages from people that are like, when your mom died, I cried. When you're
Yeah.
like, I found out, and I called everybody I knew. So it
Yeah.
was an interesting experience to kind of be so vulnerable, but also like it's there. There's a lyric in Graceland by Neil Simon where he says, losing love is like an open window and everybody sees it's open and everybody can see the wind blowing through. And like, it really felt like that where like I was in pain and it was like, I was in Greece while it happened. And everywhere I went and turned, there was someone else that was like either knew that it happened, that she died, or that they didn't know. So they were like, oh my God, I love your mom. So it was a very weird experience to kind of navigate for a little
Yeah.
while.
Yeah. And what was it like for you to strike that balance between grief and healing and humor as a comedian?
Um, I think that I don't know. My mom always just talked about death so much. Like it was part of the family. Like she lost her mom and her two older brothers before she was even 25. And so like grief and like death were just such a part of how we lived and how like we talked about things. Like in America, I guess like sex and death, we just don't talk about. It's very like, don't talk about it, taboo. But in Greek culture, it's just way more common to always be like, I'm going to die one day. Call me when I die, things like that. It's part of it. So I think it was easy to find the humor, but it was like really sitting down and thinking about like, what stories do I want to tell about her? But what stories do I also want to tell about what the grieving process is like?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about this taboo topic of death, because you're right, we don't talk about it. And if anything, all that we hear about is longevity, like living forever, like trying to like extend our life, make everything so that we don't ever have to die. But I don't think that's possible, do you?
No, I mean, listen, they have that dog thing now that's trying to like lengthen the lives of dogs, and I think they're assuming that eventually it'll be transferable to humans. But I'm like, we're still gonna, even with all that, we're still gonna die one day.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
even with all of these things like GLP-1s, all this, you're still gonna die. It doesn't really matter. So I don't know. There's an element of me where I'm like, we should and can be talking about this way more because it's so important to just understanding like how people navigate these things. Like
Yeah.
I think it's grief can just feel so lonely.
Yeah.
So when you can talk about it and actually be expressive about it, then it's like maybe it'll still feel lonely, but it won't feel as uncomfortable.
Right. Right. And you said your mom lost her parents in her mid 20s. I would think that'd be I don't know exactly how old you are, but I think that when people are kind of like really just getting started in their own life, to have that person that meant so much to them to leave, I think that'd be a difficult time to lose a parent. And maybe I'm reflecting on that too, because that's kind of about the age that my children are, mid to late 20s, and I think they're navigating life without their parents now, doing their own thing. But I still think there's this strong connection, at least until they have children of their own. But you said your mom always talked about it, and one of the things on the front of your book, it says she
When
died,
I
and I wrote this cookbook. And when I
yeah.
first I get these cookbooks, delivered here, and I get to look at them. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh my gosh, like why in the world they put that on the cover? Like I wasn't really sure like what that meant. But now that I've talked to you and I hear that your mother like talked about it all the time, saying she died is probably not that unusual.
No, 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 no. And even on the back cover, there's a quote of hers that says, "When I die, you're all going to starve." So there is this, like, in the book, just overall, like this mention of death. It's funny because the original title of the book was supposed to be My Dead Mom's Recipes. And the publisher said, no, 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 no. And I think it was definitely the right call. And I'm so happy with how it turned out now.
Yeah. And another connection for a lot of people with your content was because they saw their own immigrant parents in her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
she wasn't like she wasn't a sitcom mom where it's like she's buttoned up and beautiful and always smiling and always kind and always this. She was like a real mom, like a real European mom, and she presented herself that way. And I think that people were like, it's refreshing to see authentic people.
yeah. Yeah. And one of the things that was part of what she did is writing, not, well, your mother, like many immigrant parents, didn't really write down her recipes. Uh,
Yes.
but yet you have written copies of her recipes. I see photos of them on the wallpaper of the book. Tell me about the process of getting her to write things down.
So it was, at first it was just like especially for like not the food, not the desserts. It was like I just would call her and I would follow along with her, or I would just follow along with her, and then that's how I would break down the measurements. There were a lot of recipes that I found in her little book, which was great. Those we all had to adjust and like figure out and like really fix because there was things that she left out, or she didn't tell us like how much flour to put in for a lot of those recipes in the written ones. She wouldn't include like the recipe for the syrup at all. So there was just like basic kind of outlines. For a lot of them, I just went to my aunt, her sister, and she helped me really compile and like fine tune them, which was really nice. And then
Yeah.
it's weird because I got to know her through her sister in like a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. What did your aunt have to say about your mom as a sister that surprised you, or that you thought, wow, I wish I had known that about her?
Well, it's really funny because the first thing she said when I asked her for help was, "Oh, your mom hated my cooking, right?" So she always said I was the worst cook in the family. So take that with what you will. And then her kids also like confirmed that too, which I thought was so funny. But yeah. I think what struck me, and I think what struck me with two of my mom's other friends was how integral she was in their lives. Like it was she was part of their routine day to day. Like she would call my aunt every morning, she would call her every night, and it was the loss of routine that was so
Yeah.
hard for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think connecting on the phone, especially for immigrants, and especially if they couldn't speak English and have conversations with somebody else, I'm sure calling family was a big part of what they
Yeah,
did,
absolutely.
being able to talk and connect. I know my mom called my grandmother every day. And when we got older and moved out, she's like, are you going to call me every day like I called my mom every day? Now, the funny thing about that is my grandmother had 4 children. One of them lived with her. So she didn't have to call her every day. And my other aunt, maybe she called my grandmother every day too. And my mom called every day. But then my mom went on to have 8 kids. Can you imagine if all 8 of us called her every day?
That would just be her whole day.
It wouldn't be her whole day. Right. And then she had a hard time getting places on time anyway. So I could see her like saying, oh, I was on the phone with so and so. And sometimes she would say that. I'd say, well, what were you doing? She's like, oh, I was on the phone with Teresa, and I, whatever. So they love to talk on the phone, but talking on the phone, like on a landline phone we have a picture of my mom giving the dog a bath, talking on the phone,
That's
like cooking
hilarious.
dinner, talking on the phone. It was connected to this long cord in the kitchen. It was just part of chatting on the phone while she was doing stuff around the house.
That's so fun. I have a friend now who we also chat on the phone, like the way my mom and my aunt used to do. Like we'll be on the phone for like 3 or 4 hours. Like I will go to the gym, I'll go to the supermarket, I'll still be on the phone with her. I'll take a shower, I'll still be on the phone with her. I'll I'll change, I'll put my laundry away, I'm still on the phone with her. And it feels like I'm connecting with my mom in a whole different way. It's kind of
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Do you use your phone or do you use FaceTime?
Well, I use my phone. I don't like the
Yeah.
FaceTime as
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen people in the grocery store with the phone like in their cart, like
Yes,
with
I've seen
FaceTime
that.
on, almost like the person is sitting in the cart where the baby
I
belongs.
know. I see that at the car and the concerts too. It's really funny.
It is funny. It's like a little portal into with this other person. And for immigrants though, when people are here in the US and they're talking maybe to someone on FaceTime, they maybe don't get to see them all the time.
No, yeah, like my aunt, they probably saw each other once or twice a year,
Yeah.
so like in real life. So it was very important for her.
Yeah. So your mother never learned to speak English.
Hmm.
When
I always
you
joke the only thing she knew how to say in English were hello, how are you, and fuck you, which is ridiculous.
So when she actually came on your videos, she spoke in Greek, and you said you
Yeah.
put the subtitles up to
Uh-huh.
translate. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And what about when you impersonated her? You
I
spoke in
do that in
English?
English. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it gave people an opportunity to like understand her in that different way. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Funny. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the viral Greek mom persona, the one that you put on as her, one-liners, and what types of things really appealed to people as you started doing that.
I think it was I did like an Easter video first. That was like one of the big ones that went viral. And that was like it covered all like the Easter classics. And it was during the pandemic, like at a time where everyone was still stuck inside. So they were like, oh, this is great. And I think like one of her main catchphrases was like, oh, I went to the Greek bakery and Tula took the last of the feta cheese that beats. And then like Tula was this like running character that she hated. And so yeah, she had her own little catchphrases, but it was also like all inspired by things that my mom or my grandma or my aunt had said, which was fun to bring to life in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So are you a second or a third generation Greek?
I think we're first because we
First.
came
Yeah. So she
here. Yeah,
was right. So you would be first. What
yeah.
do you let's talk a little bit about this book specifically and talk a little bit about Greek cooking, Greek home cooking, and what that means to someone like you who hasn't had a mother that came from Greece. Tell us a little bit, first of all, about the food.
The food. What I love about the food is that one, it's so funny because when I wrote the book, I didn't think anyone was going to make the food, and now all my friends and everybody is sending me pictures of their food, and they're like, "It's so good," and I was like, "Right, right." Duh. But like, I think what's striking a lot of people is that how simple they are. They're not complicated. They're not really insane. There is some ingredients that you do have to like go and find, but they're all like replaceable. You can find substitutes for them, and they all very simple recipes. Like I am a stand-up comedian writing a cookbook, and my mom was not a professional chef. And so there is like a very homey quality to a lot of the recipes. I think what's also very striking about them is that most of them are for like batch cooking. Like most of them are for like 6 to 8 plus. Like some of the cookie recipes too are for like 60 to 100 cookies. Like it's an insane amount. And I think that also speaks to a little bit of that authenticity, which is like my mom didn't cook for 2, 3 people. She cooked for 8 all the time. Like she cooked for us, and then we had leftovers for 2 or 3 days. And I think that's really fun.
Yeah, yeah. So Easter was a big deal, I bet, in your family.
Huge deal. I mean, we would have like a full lamb when we bought the house that we bought that my dad's currently living in. When I was like 15, we had a backyard, so we could buy a spit, and we bought a spit. We have a
Wow.
whole lamb on the spit every year. We would do it. It was an insane thing. And my mom would like peel off the skin from the lamb on the spit and be like, "This is my favorite part," like all this. And it was, yeah, big party.
Yeah. So you get the lamb from a local butcher that would butcher the lamb.
Yeah, the
Not
Greek
butcher it,
butchers
but
and
like provide it for you, right?
yeah. Usually, so you could either drive to a farm upstate New York, or you can just go to the Greek store and they have like the Easter lambs ready to go.
Yeah, yeah. So what do you want people to know about Greek home cooking that they might not be exposed to in a restaurant?
I think the restaurants. Well, first of all, this book is written from my mom's perspective, and she was a mainland Greek, and which means there's not a lot of seafood in here. So, and I think a lot of people really associate Greek food with seafood. So there's not a lot of seafood in here. I think what's great about it is it exposes you to the classics, which are spanakopita, pasticcio, moussaka, the souvlaki, but it also has a lot of Greek things you're not going to find in a Greek menu here in America, but are just classic Greek home cooking at home. Things like macaroni me quimada, her bolognese sauce, the green bean stew, the beef stew, a lot of the desserts. Other than a few desserts that I think are popular, like baklava, there's so many desserts in here that I think are delicious, like the walnut cake, like the almond shortbread cookies, that I think people will be like, "Oh, wow, I love this." And you start to see a lot of like the Arabic and other European influences in the food, and that you start seeing like cloves and cinnamon and nutmeg and allspice and a lot of fun stuff. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I got to mention that I live in northern Kentucky, right outside of Cincinnati, so home of Skyline and Cincinnati chili. And the
Oh,
story
nice.
goes is that it has the guys that found Skyline and the Cincinnati style chili had were of Greek heritage because it has cinnamon, it has cloves and
Oh, nice.
spices in
Yeah.
it. So it's a hamburger sauce, but it's served over spaghetti. So it looks like spaghetti.
Yeah.
And then they serve cheddar cheese on top. That's the big thing. And then sometimes they'll put onion on it. But the spices of it are what is so unique about it. And it made
Yeah.
me think about that when you mentioned the types of the influence of the spices into the food from the Arabic culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's her macaroni me quima recipe is her bolognese recipe, and it is that. It's like cinnamon and cloves,
Yeah.
and it's so good. And everybody at first is like, "That's so weird." And then they taste it and they're like, "This tastes like fall. This is amazing."
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever
Yeah.
had Cincinnati chili?
No, I haven't. I haven't been to Cincinnati.
You can go to Amazon and order. I think Skyline
Oh,
sells
fun. Great.
cans, so you'll have to
Oh,
give it a
that's
try
great. I
and
love
see.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 But of course, they pile all this cheese on top of it. I don't know if the bolognese was served with any cheese on it, feta
We
or
would. Yeah. We
Parmesan
had
or
mizithra actually is a special Greek cheese. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it grates.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen that in the supermarkets. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a similar thing then, but they use like a mild cheddar, I think, and grate it.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah.
great.
That's neat. I'm gonna have to try I'm gonna have to try one of the recipes in the book and try the bolognese and see
So
see
good.
how it tastes. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your grief after losing your mom and how you use humor and how you use what you were doing here with her book to process that.
It's funny because I just wrote these stories as a way of like I would just spend like 3 or 4 hours in the book every day, and hopefully would get somewhere. But it really reached a point where I could only spend 3 to 4 hours a day. And then I have to put my laptop away and go
Yeah.
for a walk and clear my head. But it really helped me just sit and process a lot of the feelings that I was feeling, but also just reflect, but also think about in general. Like, I really think that my brain was thinking in my head that whole time. Like, imagine you 15 to 20 years from now, you're going to want this. You're going to want these recipes. You're going to want these stories in a lot of ways. And and your niece and nephew are going to really want them, because it really is like, here's grandma's, biography in a lot of ways. This is what
Yeah.
grandma gave you. And so through that, I think I was really able to just buckle down and do it, because I know, like, my future self is going to be like, thank God I have these things. Thank God I
Well,
have this.
yeah. And you just said something that to me is so key about doing anything that you really want to do, because you can't always find the motivation in the moment, right? But if you
Yeah.
say to yourself, future self, in 15 years, you're going to want to have finished this, and you almost like flash forward to that time and talk to yourself back to now from then, it really is very helpful to do that.
Yeah.
You imagine a future where your nieces and nephew have the book, where you have the book,
Right.
where you have
We're
everything
like,
written down and documented.
when they're 22 and they're like out of college and they need to cook at home, they're going to be
Yeah.
calling little Uncle Gus, and they're going to be like, hey,
Yeah.
I want to make this. And I'll be like, all right, you got it.
Yeah. Here's grandma's all of her stuff in this
Yeah.
book. Yeah. So did you feel like it was funnier or more vulnerable on stage to be the Greek mom after she passed away?
So I would say it is vulnerable. I think what's vulnerable about the book is that it's like the recipes. I didn't think it was going to be published, so I just wrote it to write it, and then now I'm looking back and I'm like, ooh, I basically put my social security number in here. I'm that vulnerable. Like, I really needed to maybe pull back a little bit. But I think that it's the vulnerability that I think people are relating with, because like the way my mom talked about death, I also talk about death, which is not shy and very real. And I think people that have experienced the loss will really appreciate that. I think the ones that haven't are going to appreciate it one day. And in terms of doing the Greek mom character now, I just feels very different. I think I've just separated myself from like being my mom. And it's like, this is just some fun character that I did before she passed that I can keep on doing in a different, fun way,
Yeah.
if
Don't
that
they
makes
say,
sense.
yeah, vulnerability is often really most uh, common point of connection with people.
Right.
When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable,
Right.
even with people who we're closest to. If I allow
It's
myself to
still,
be,
it's
it's the
sometimes
way
the
we
hardest to
connect.
be vulnerable with people that you're closest to. Like with my dad, sometimes I'm like, I struggle to be vulnerable because I'm like, well, I don't want to bum him out. And
Yeah.
I know he doesn't want to bum me out. So how can we do this? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's such a point. It's such an opportunity to like, kind of say like let your guard down and like be real about something rather than just hip hopping along the surface of life,
Right.
and not really taking. I think it allows people to talk about things in depth and a little bit deeper. And some people have that relationship all the time, but with your dad, I could see if that's not typically part of the way you talk, then it's like I don't know if I really should say this.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but the older my mom got, the more I saw that I had a limited amount of time with her. And I'm like, there's some things that I knew we just talked about things in a different way, like probably the last couple of years that she was alive. And I intentionally made a point. Sometimes if I was like taking her to the doctor, rather than rushing out, like I got to go home, I tried to like, make some time to have some lunch and sit and talk to her for a while, because that's what she really enjoyed.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, I think the vulnerability is a huge part of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So the book does contain some painful moments and a lot of laugh out loud things. All together. When did you decide what was going to be vulnerable and what you were going to joke about?
I think what happened was I wrote the first draft and I really looked back on it and I was like, oh my, I read it through and I was like, oh God, some of this is so depressing. And so I think it was through that process that I was like, all right, now let me go in and find some lighter moments, because the first pass at it was like truly a bummer. Not like all of it, but some of it I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I can pull back there. And so I think I tried to infuse it more with humor as it went along. And it was also because, distance and time had passed. And so I was able to find some of the funny in some of those moments again.
Right. So you didn't know when you were writing this that you had a contract for a book?
No, I wrote it. I literally wrote it. Like, I started writing it. I thought I was going to self-publish. I posted a video about finishing the first draft about like a year after she passed away. And that's when an agent reached out to me and was like, we'd love to see what you got. We'd love to meet with you. And I had already written a proposal because I read online that you should have a proposal ready if you're trying to sell this thing. So I sent them the proposal, and then it was a pretty quick process after that because everything was with the proposal and the first draft done. They were like, well, I mean, this is ready to go.
Yeah.
So we just pitched it out. We got a few offers. I took the best one.
Right.
And then it was about a year of production after that. And that was the other thing. The timeline was a little sped up because I had so much of it already done.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you used writing then, I think, to process grief.
Yeah, I did. And I used, but also, like, I have to say, like, the publisher was so great to work with, and they really understood what I was doing and wanted to just bring that to the book. Like, they weren't like, okay, we bought this Greek cookbook and now we're going to do whatever we want with it. They really were like, we love this guy, we love his mom, and we're going to make this special. So even the photo shoot, I was there for the photo shoot all 5 days, and we really got to connect, like me and the photographer and the stylist and the editor, through this like weird lens. And like, we did like a picnic after the photo shoot was over and like sat in like a lake and ate the food that we had made, and we all connected. So it wasn't just the writing and just the recipes. It was like the whole process was like weird, like a weird coincidence, but like a beautiful step. Like, everybody I met through it was like integrated into the process. So it was really cool.
Yeah. And I think you bring up some important points about cookbook publishing specifically that I think make it unique. And that's, first of all, agents and publishers are paying attention and watching what's going on online. And they're looking for people to write their next books. They don't have they don't write the books. They need people to do it for them. So I always tell people, if you're interested in doing it, make yourself visible somehow, either on video, in writing, or in audio. Somehow be out there online. You can do things in your community, but there's less of a chance that someone might see you actually doing it. And then
absolutely.
The second thing is, it's not just the words of the book, but the whole food part of it. And the photos and making sure things work and testing. And this takes a team of people to put this together. And your publishing team became people that you got to know, personally.
Yeah.
And
that was really nice.
It is great. It's great.
Yeah.
And I think that it's such a misconception that you just like lose total control and they're going to take over. And even you had that conception before, or perception.
Yeah. I mean, there were certain things that they had control over, but it always felt like it could be a conversation. Like,
yes.
And they were able to be like, oh, okay, I get this. Like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? And that was really nice. It's nice to be able to work with people that are collaborators at heart.
It could even be something as simple as there was a certain way your mother said something or spelled something or talked about something. They may be like, oh no, editor says we got to change it. You're like, no, we cannot change that. That's the way she said it. That's the way she did it. We're going to leave it that way. And they'd be like, oh, okay, we need to stay true to the book, who she is and what you were trying to communicate in the book.
Right.
And so your journey then doing it this way versus self-publishing, you had the editorial team, you had photographer, you had people doing the photos, and then just the actual creation of the book.
Right.
It's an amazing experience to work with a traditional publisher. So I'm so glad to hear that you had that experience as well.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was very cool.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the book specifically. Named My Mom's Greek Recipes. A lot of stories, but let's walk us through about the book, how you laid it out, what you thought about. It's got a pretty traditional table of contents, everything from appetizers, soups and salads, main courses, side dishes, desserts, and then there is a whole chapter on Easter and cocktails and coffee drinks. Was there a particular chapter that you enjoyed doing and really pulling together more than the others, maybe even related to the type of cook that your mom was?
It was the Greek Easter section because, it was the Easter video that I did that went viral. I was always posting Easter videos. Easter is such a huge holiday in Greece and such a huge part of my childhood. So I really was like, I want to make sure that those stories and those recipes in particular are just really tight and really good.
Yeah. And I also love how open the photographer, not the photographer, the publisher was to putting your photos of your mom and your family in the book.
Yes, yeah, and they weren't as many in the first draft, and then I was like, please put more, and they like infused it with so many more, and so it was, yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. Now, at the beginning of the chapters, um, there are funny little post-it notes, like notes
Yes,
from your
the
mom.
publisher thought of that and did all of those, and they just watched my videos and they pulled all of that stuff. So I thought that was so fun. Yeah, there's all these little post-it notes with like quotes of hers, which I think are so cute and fun.
It is cute. Like in the Greek Easter, it says they ate like they've never
Eaten food
seen.
before.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
these poor Americans.
These poor Americans, that was referring to my friend's family who would come over for Easter and they would pile down on our food. In fact, like there was one year where my mom was like, I put some extras in Tupperware in the refrigerator. So if they clean us out again, we at least have something to eat tomorrow. Like literally, she was like, these people, they come starving. It's so funny.
These poor Americans. And then also in the dessert chapter, it says, I made all this food and not one person said thank you.
Oh, yes, iconic.
Yes, yes. So I think it's really sweet that they were able to pull those out and write those notes and funny things that she said throughout it. So let's talk a little bit about some of the entrees, I guess the main parts of the meals. What would you like people to know when it comes to just everyday meals, the main dish, the types of things that you're used to her cooking?
um, there is an element of, she would always say like use your eye, like metomati, to make sure that things like, there's enough of something, not enough of something, or that something's, going well. And I think that's kind of it with a lot of the main courses. A lot of them come down to the simmer and really watching them. So it really is like use your eye. I think once you start cooking these recipes enough, you'll start realizing like, oh, I know, okay, this needs a little bit more water, this is here, this is there, and you start really putting those like pieces together and you can apply them to like other things that you cook, and I think that's really nice.
Yeah. Now you do have a whole little story here about a very Greek barbecue. Meat, meat, and more meat. Lots of
um
meat, huh?
so much meat. That was the thing. My mom never, yeah, it was, I had a boyfriend who was vegetarian and my mom hated it. She was just like, I don't know what to feed him. I only have meat. She would put chicken stock in her lemon potatoes and she would not tell him. And he was like, these are so delicious. And she'd be like, yeah, because there's chicken stock in them. And yeah, she was very meat heavy. Like, I think it's funny because, like, people think about their moms when they see other moms. The one time I cried after she died, looking at like another person, was when I saw someone like eating a chicken wing down to the bone. Cause I was like, oh, there's my mom. That reminds me of my mom.
So she and the things that she said was just, she wasn't trying to be funny. She was just like being who
No.
she was.
Well, she was just trying to be who she was, but who she was genuinely really funny. And
Right.
she knew when she was like, I'm telling jokes right now, I'm telling a funny story. Because there was a time I went to South Carolina with her, and she told me this hilarious story on the plane. And it was so funny about her going to Canada as a kid. And I thought it was so funny. And then later on that night, we were with a group of women, and she told the same story, but she like kind of adjusted it and fixed a few things, made it even funnier. And she turned to me and she goes, you see, I fixed it. So I was like, oh, you know what you're doing. You know how to fix things and make them funnier, which is great.
Yeah.
She's a little stand-up comic.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's neat to think about that. So we got a lot of meat. What about the soups? I know there's some soups that I've heard of before. What kinds of soups stand out in your mind when you think of your
I mean,
mom?
the classic there is avgolemono, the chicken egg lemon soup that I think everybody is very fond of in America. And that is delicious. I mean, with just the right amount of like pepper on top, it's just so good. So I'm glad with that recipe because it turned out really, really good. And then I do hate lentil soup, but I did include her lentil soup recipe in here, which people have told me is good and they love it, they like it, but I just hate lentil soup. And she also hated lentil soup, which I thought was very funny.
So why did she make it?
Well, because of the iron. She was like, you need to get your iron. It was the nutritional value. So, and my dad loved it, so it
Yeah.
was just one of those things that was always in the house.
Yeah. Yeah. So she would make something that she didn't like, but she would do it for your father, which is sweet. But she would eat it also. Make you eat it
She
as
would eat
well?
it. She would
Yeah.
make me eat it. She would make me French fries and then make me eat it. And then for
Yeah.
her, my dad would feed it to her with like a spoon, and she would like run away from him.
Yeah. That's funny. So tell me about meatballs. I love meatballs, and I know that this is of course, it's meat, but it's ground meat and it's seasoned. So tell me about the role of meatballs. I think you have them in the appetizer chapter.
They're the first recipe in the book. Her meatballs were the first thing she ever taught me how to make. I was living in LA, and I like called her one day and I was like, listen, I need some meatballs. And she taught me how to make them. It was the first thing I made after she died. And it was the first recipe in this book. So it feels very special to have them in here. Um, there is mint and parsley in them. And that's what they're very herbaceous. So it just makes them really pop. And you can fry them, you can bake them, but they're just so good. And I love
Yeah.
those meatballs.
And they were always eaten just plain as a meatball.
Plain as a meatball, I would put a lot of ketchup because I'm a ketchup fiend. But she would either do like French fries or she would do like a pasta or rice with them.
Yeah. Very nice. I have to talk about cookies.
Hmm.
That's a big part of what she did. She baked as well as cooked.
Yes.
Because sometimes you don't find people that do a lot of both.
Right. That's actually true. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What her baking what was so special about her baking was that she made her own phyllo dough. So she was always making phyllo dough in the house and
Wow.
bread, fresh bread. Yeah. So it was an intense process. Like I have the phyllo dough recipe in this book, but I really don't make it. I just buy the prepackaged stuff. I just call it a day. It's too hard. I live in a studio.
Yeah.
Where am I going to make phyllo dough in this? Like in my shower, in my standing shower? It's not
So what
happening.
would people, if they lived in Greece or they had a small apartment and people made it, what would they do to make phyllo dough in a small
What would
place?
they do? A lot of people in Greece really just do buy it. Like, I'll be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's also like I think even in Greece, like the younger people my age, like they barely know how to do it nowadays. It's like a skill that even people in Greece are like, oh, the older people know that.
Do you think it's something that's going to be lost over time?
I hope not, but maybe. Unfortunately,
Yeah. Yeah. But maybe there'll be somebody that continues to make it.
yeah.
Um, it's the same for making pie crusts, making biscuits,
Yes.
making certain kinds of cookies, maybe a little bit more labor intensive. I'm not sure with phyllo dough. Now, she might have said to you, you can tell the difference between frozen and fresh. Now,
Hmm.
what about you? Can you tell the difference? Like if you were to think of the way her phyllo dough was and buying it, is it pretty similar?
Oh no, it's different. It's definitely
Yeah.
different. Hers was also a little thicker, so that was kind of the difference. But yeah, it was definitely super different.
Yeah, yeah. So what about the cookies? I know those were a big deal in, Greek cooking.
Which cookies?
Well, I don't know, there's a lot of
There's
different ones
so
in the
many. There's
chapter.
so many in
Right,
here.
right.
The kulakia, the butter cookies, the Easter cookies are so good. I think the almond shortbread cookies are my favorite. The curabiedas, the ones with the powdered sugar on top, those are like Christmas cookies. Those are really delicious. I mean, those I think turn out so good every time I make them.
There's some that
And
look like they're marmalade thumbprint cookies.
yes, she used to make these thumbprint cookies that were like non-holiday specific, and she would do it for the grandkids. And I had to make those for the book cover, which was really fun. So, yeah, yeah, yeah. It was really funny because it was 110 degrees in New York when I was making those cookies, and my air conditioning was not working. So the butter was not cooperating at all whatsoever. So I had to do like 3 batches of those cookies to get them right. And then they ended up on the book cover, and I was like, thank God.
And that's the ones that it's a table for those of to
Yes.
describe it, the table spread of food. The cookies that are down in the bottom right-hand corner is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And we have to talk about bundt cakes.
Oh yes, I do have a bun cake recipe in there because I did love the my big fat Greek wedding reference of it all. And she used to make that bun cake. It was something I actually found in her little recipe book. And the only thing it was missing was the frosting on top. So I just plopped that in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, she used to make a bun cake like that. It was really funny. But it was never because of the movie. It was always because she just had this bun cake recipe. But yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, do you think this book is the final chapter of your mom's story or just a new beginning of new people getting to see her through the eyes of this book?
Ooh, I have no idea. People keep asking me like, "Are you going to write another book?" And I didn't think I was going to write this one. So I don't know. Maybe my boyfriend did say I should do like a 10th or 15th anniversary edition where I have like 10 extra recipes and then 10 extra stories that like are more about like the later years of grieving and how that's impacted me, or like any stories that I didn't want to include. And I think that would be really, really fun if I get a chance to do that. But I don't know. I keep joking that like, my dad is a tailor, and when he dies, maybe I'll do like hemming jeans with my dead dad or something like that. But I don't know. I think I'm a one and done here. But it would be awesome to write another book because I did love it. I just don't know if I have another cookbook in me per se.
Yeah. Maybe it might be about something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there is something that's cathartic. And I think writing is a great way to process emotions just in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not a very vulnerable person when it comes to like my day-to-day life. And so I think I really just I put it all in paper and my writing. I just really like, I've noticed that as I've gotten older, I really am just like, I'm free to say anything on a piece of paper. But when it comes to just me as a person, sometimes I'm like, I don't want all this. I don't need this. It's Tuesday afternoon. I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah. Because
But there is
sometimes
an element. Yeah.
easier to write it than it is to actually say it out loud.
Yeah, it's easier to write it, put it down, and have someone experience it than have someone experience it in front of you and have to be like, oh,
Yeah.
ooh, yeah.
No, that's true. So if your mom could see this book, what do you think she'd say?
She'd say half of it is all wrong, and I hate. No, just kidding. She would love it. She would love it. I think it would have just been such a different thing if she was still alive. It would have just been like obviously more recipes and things, different types of stories. But I think she would have seen what I did after she died, and she would have been like, holy shit, wow, that's great, cool.
Yeah.
Even if she didn't want to tell me to my face, she would tell her friends.
Yeah, because this book is recipes, but a lot of stories and a lot of writing. So if you're someone that enjoys reading cookbooks as well, there'll be a lot of material in here for people to enjoy. Yeah. So as we're wrapping up, Gus, I love, of course, Cookbook Love podcasts. I'd like to talk to you about cookbooks, other cookbooks, if there's been any that have influenced you in your life other than recipes from your mom and this work that you did related to your mom.
There's a Greek cookbook called Yaya, which is really sweet, and it's recipes from older Greek women all around Greece, and there's a little bit of their stories in each of them, not too much, but it is their recipes, and that's like a really special book. I think Taste by Stanley Tucci really influenced me a lot during the writing process of this book. And I have a friend who's obsessed with Alison Roman, so I do try a lot of her food. And I do love an Alison Roman recipe, even though I think some people find she can be polarizing in the community, I think. But I don't know. Everything he's ever made for me, I'm always like, this is great. Never mind.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Great. Well, I'll be happy to look those up, link to them in the show notes. People are always curious about the cookbooks that cookbook authors love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we wrap up here, I'd love for you to tell people how they can connect with you online.
I am at Constantly Gus on everything, TikTok, Instagram. You can find my website, constantlygus.com, and you can see my upcoming tour dates there. And if you want to buy the book, you can buy the book there as well.
Yeah, great. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing all about your journey through your comedy to write the book, My Greek Mom's Recipes. She
Thank
died.
you.
I wrote the cookbook. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us today for this episode of the Cookbook Love podcast. Again, all the links can be found in the show notes at www.cookbooklove.co. And if you are interested in writing a cookbook of your own, please check out the free cookbook writing masterclass called How to Get Paid to Write a Cookbook. It is designed specifically for food or nutrition experts, and you can check that out at www.cookbookwritersacademy.com/free. So that's it for today's episode of the Cookbook Love podcast. This is your host, Maggie Green. And until next time, have a great day and keep loving your cookbooks.
Thanks for listening to the Cookbook Love podcast. You can find out more information at www.cookbooklove.co.